So today we're looking at a map that, let's be honest, most of us think of as completely fixed, just permanent, right? But what if I told you the Persian Gulf and all the land masses surrounding it are actually part of this massive, living, breathing geological engine? We're going to explore the incredibly dynamic, hidden geological forces that are literally warping the Middle East right beneath our feet. Let's just dive right in.
So, how exactly did a 30-million-year-old continental crash create the modern Middle East? It's so easy to look at satellite imagery of the Arabian Peninsula and just see this static landscape. Deserts, mountains, seas that have just always been there. But to really grasp what's going on in this region, we have to completely reframe our thinking. This isn't just a map. It's an incredibly active, ongoing collision zone. The land is quite literally on the move, and the waters of the Gulf are really just the latest chapter in a drama that kicked off tens of millions of years ago. Section 1. The Tectonic Big Picture.
Okay, to understand how this all works, we need to zoom way, way out. We're dealing with the massive scale of deep time here. We've got three huge milestones. First, going back 500 million years ago, ancient layers of salts and evaporites, basically minerals left behind by evaporating water, were laid down. And we will absolutely come back to that salt later because it does some truly wild things. Then jump forward to 30 million years ago. The Arabian Plate, which is this massive fragment of Earth's crust, actually tears away from Africa, ripping open the Red Sea in the process. And finally, a mere 10,000 years ago, which is honestly practically yesterday in geological time, the Ice Age ends and the modern Gulf floods.
So the absolutely crucial point here is what happened after that breakaway from Africa. As the Arabian Plate was pulled away, its northeastern edge was sent on a direct collision course. It's actively ramming right into the Eurasian Plate. And guys, this isn't ancient history. This convergence is happening right now as we speak. It's this massive kinetic crash of continental plates that's physically pushing up the towering Zagros Mountains over in Iran.
Moving on to Section 2, Birth of the Basin.
To understand the creation of the Gulf itself, we really have to understand what it actually is structurally. It's a foreland basin. Think of it like a giant bending board. The Arabian Plate is acting like this rigid board, and as it smashes into the Eurasian Plate, the sheer, crushing weight of those rising Zagros Mountains pushes down on the edge of the Arabian Plate. It flexes and bends downward under the pressure, creating a massive structural depression right next to the mountains. That giant geological bowl, that is the Persian Gulf. Now, over millions of years, that massive bowl didn't just sit empty. As the Zagros Mountains were pushed higher and higher, they were also continuously eroding. Countless tons of sediment washed down, filling that basin with incredibly thick layers of limestone, shale, and evaporates. But here's what I find totally fascinating. During the last ice age, when global sea levels were way lower, this entire basin floor was exposed, dry land. Imagine standing there back then. You wouldn't be looking at an ocean, you'd be staring at a vast, dry landscape crossed by ancient, flowing river systems.
But then, everything changed, just 10,000 years ago. As the ice melted and global sea levels rose, massive amounts of seawater rushed in. It completely flooded this ancient river valley and created the modern Persian Gulf we recognize today. 10,000 years. When you think about the lifespan of the Earth, that's barely a blink of an eye.
Section 3. The Strait of Hormuz. Zooming in from that vast basin to its incredibly narrow gateway, we find something pretty surprising. The main Persian Gulf is actually quite shallow. On average, the main basin sits at a depth of only about 30 to 50 meters. But right here, there's a dramatic contrast. As the Gulf funnels into the Strait of Hormuz, the depth just plunges. The central channel reaches depths of 60 to 100 meters. And this specific, unusually deep channel is exactly what allows those massive, modern ocean-going vessels to safely navigate through this incredibly tight choke point. So why the sudden drop? Well, the depth in the strait isn't uniform at all. It is a highly dynamic boundary. The deep central channel perfectly aligns with structural lows that were literally cracked open by tectonic faulting and subsidence. Meanwhile, if you look over on the shallower Arabian or Omani side, sediment is just constantly building up. On top of all that, you have these incredibly strong tidal currents violently scouring the seabed, redistributing the sand, and essentially maintaining those deep navigable channels. It's just a perfect intersection of moving earth, falling sediment, and rushing water.
Section 4. A Tale of Two Islands.
Now let's get down to ground level. These massive forces manifest radically differently, even right next to each other. Take Karg Island, for example, over in the northwestern Gulf. The geology there is relatively simple. It's mostly limestones and marls, and it emerged above sea level simply because of a gentle tectonic uplift, just a subtle warping as the Arabian plate flexed. Structurally speaking, it's pretty calm. But then look over at Keshm Island, located near the Strait of Hormuz. Because it sits right near that intense plate boundary, it is wildly deformed. The landscape is violently fractured, and it's entirely driven by this process called salt tectonics, which is actively pulling up ancient 500-million-year-old evaporates. To really understand what's happening on Keshm Island, we have to understand salt tectonics. Basically, this is the structural deformation of rock caused by the upward movement of deeply buried, lighter layers of salt. It sounds bizarre, right? Solid rock being shaped by salt, but under immense pressure, salt stops acting like a brittle crystal and actually starts acting like a fluid. Let's walk through exactly how this highly active process works on Keshm. Step 1, remember that ancient salt from 500 million years ago? It's buried way deep underground. Step 2, the collision of the Arabian and Eurasian plates applies this just unimaginable tectonic pressure. Then, step 3, this is the crazy part, the salt actually begins to behave plastically. Think of it like a giant tube of toothpaste being violently squeezed. The lighter salt forces its way upward, right through the heavier solid rock. And finally, step 4, as this massive dome of salt rises, it bulges and physically uplifts the overlying rock on the surface. It stretches it until it fractures into these elongated, broken terrains. And that right there is exactly what you are looking at when you see the rugged surface of Keshm Island today. And that brings us to this really powerful quote from our sources. The Arabian Peninsula is not static. It is still moving, still deforming, and still shaping the waters that surround it. Everything we've seen in this explainer, the deepening of the strait, the rise of the Zagros Mountains, the salt literally squeezing out of the earth on Keshm Island, none of this is finished. It is a living, breathing engine. Which leaves us with this final thought. The Arabian plate continues its slow, unstoppable ramming into Eurasia right at this very moment. The Gulf is still warping, the salt is still rising. So when you think about the deep geological future of our planet, what do you think this map will look like 1,000,000 years from now? Thanks for watching this explainer, and keep questioning the ground beneath your feet.